Shalom. Okay, so putting this video out there to get feedback. I don't have everything figured out yet, but I'm hoping as iron sharpens iron, I may bring up some points and others may have some points to contribute and or some corrections to what I'm saying. And together, with Yah's help, we will find the truth of this matter. So please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And we'll try to bring the pieces of the puzzle together so that we can all see the big picture. Okay, so a little clarification on the title of this video. The Book of Enoch really isn't a calendar. It simply defines the cycles of the luminaries. In other words, it explains to us how time works. To my knowledge, no other ancient truth writing out there does this. So we have to go off of the books that made it into the canonized Bible in order to see the layout of the Creator's appointed times. This being said, the Book of Enoch does talk about the festivals at least twice in the calendar section. I believe it says the stars help to coordinate these. For more info on this, I recommend checking out my videos in this series talking about months and stars. Anyway, Leviticus 23 is usually the best summary picture of the appointed times that people turn to. Okay, so on the topic of first fruits and Pentecost. Let's see here. Going crazy here. Okay. Ever since I came into this next level of understanding of the Creator's truths, and that was the realization that sin is the transgression of the law. That word law meaning, Torah, which is instructions, simply instructions. And by the way, Torah doesn't merely mean or include just those first 5 books of the canonized Bible. I think that's a tradition to think of the Torah that way. I think the Torah are instructions that come from your Creator. Written, spoken, then, now, anytime. So sin is the transgression of the instructions of your Creator, whether it was written in those first 5 books of the Bible, or whether He speaks to you directly. That's what the Torah is, but that's another topic for another time. Anyway, since that time, when I was starting to wake up, I personally was just blindly following another ministry's calendar for first fruits and Pentecost. It was all over my head initially, so I just followed without much understanding or study, which is never really a good boat to be in if you can avoid it. If you sense you're in this position, I encourage you to take time to study that topic out for yourself, as we are admonished to do. Study to show yourself approved, test all things. So anyway, this other ministry had first fruits happening 3 days and 3 nights after the Messiah died on the cross. They claimed he rose on first fruits 3 days and 3 nights after Passover. So that put first fruits in the midst of the week of unleavened bread. Well, lately I've been hearing that several ancient writings from the Dead Sea Scroll collection, the Temple Scroll being one of them, claim that first fruits falls on the 26th day of the first month. So if this was true, it puts first fruits not in the midst of the week of unleavened bread, but rather the week following. Again, the ancient writings seem to agree with this conclusion, though I believe at least one of them admitted it was a controversial subject. So I think I'm going to have a picture just of some of these sources, but again, you can get the Dead Sea Scroll book is available, kind of a translation in English, or a compilation. I'll attach a reference for that, but the fragments that talk about this, I guess, are the priestly service, Sabbath, month, and festival, year 1, and then year 4 mention this 26th day of the of the first month, and then I guess also again in the Dead Sea Scroll book, in the Temple Scroll, it's mentioned again on page 559 and around 600. So when I started hearing about this, I pretty much stayed up all night rereading every account of First Fruits and Pentecost I could find mentioned in the canonized Bible. And I came to the conclusion it seemed only Leviticus 23 described the timing of First Fruits and Pentecost. And after rereading it, and rereading it, and rereading it, it truly seemed ambiguous, meaning it was truly hard to understand if Leviticus 23 was talking about the Sabbath during the week of unleavened bread or the Sabbath following. I've heard someone try to make the point lately that none of the Creator's appointed times overlap. This sounds good in theory, but I don't know if there's much scripture to actually back up such a theory. Again, I'm just throwing all my thoughts out there in the hopes that we'll get some feedback and we'll work together to figure this out. So, since it didn't seem clear which Sabbath Leviticus 23 was referring to, the only other written info that I had to go off of was the Temple Scroll and these other sources within the Dead Sea Scroll collection. And in the absence of clarity within the canonized Bible, I like the fact that such instructions and clarification seem to be written as opposed to just, verbal hearsay or oral laws or pure assumptions or speculation. If nothing else, I guess I would try to stay with what is written, but at the same time, such writings need to be tested, and I must confess that I have not done so yet for these sources. I've just been feeling an urgency to put the word out, encourage people to look into these things for themselves. So, I mean, if you take the Temple Scroll, for example, one should take the time to read this in its entirety and see if anything has been added or takes away from the instructions of the Almighty. Are there any contradictions? Who knows, maybe a Pharisee wrote it and tried to mix truth with tradition or something like that. So anyway, I need to read these sources for myself and see what they are all about, and I recommend people do the same, I guess. But anyway, I pretty much decided to settle on keeping the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost, or I guess First Fruits actually, on the 26th day of the first month, and then, you count 50 from there, because it was the clearest description of the timing of this event that we seem to have a written record of, and also I couldn't really find anything wrong with it. However, recently I was reminded of the interpretation of this other ministry that I had started with, and their timing for this event, and how they had Messiah rising from the dead on First Fruits. So then I became conflicted, because if this was true, then that would mean First Fruits must fall during the week of unleavened bread, 3 days and 3 nights after Passover. Which would then mean that the Temple Scroll and the other ancient writings claiming the 26th day for First Fruits in the Dead Sea Scroll collection were an error. So I stewed on this for a couple days. Then I realized perhaps it was possible Messiah did not rise from the dead on First Fruits, but rather he ascended to the Father on First Fruits. If that was the case, then it was possible First Fruits actually fell the week after unleavened bread, somewhere near the 26th, as these ancient sources in the Dead Sea Scroll collection are claiming. So there is safety in a multitude of counsel. I mean, after trying to see everything I could about it in the Word, I guess I started, Googling and YouTubing it, and I came across a couple videos. I'll include the links for these in the description below, but I came across one video called More Evidence of the Priestly Order by Jerry Morris, and in that video, it was really good video for laying out the timing of the events in the first 5 books of the Bible. Because if you've ever noticed, it seems they're not quite in chronological order. But anyway, I believe it was shown in this video that first fruits did occur on the 26th of the first month. Next, I came across another video, and again, this video claimed or showed that first fruits was occurring on the 26th day of the first month. The video is called The Death, Burial, and Resurrection of Yahushua. I gotta work on my names too, by the way. But anyway, of the Enoch calendar, first fruits response to Rob Skib, I guess. And I did have a comment on this video, trying to make it all add up in my head. I asked the question, isn't Pentecost, or I guess, yeah, Pentecost, isn't that thought to have occurred when Yah spoke to the people from the mountain? Because in the video they were saying there's a timestamp where it says they arrived at the mountain on the 15th day of the 3rd month, so all we gotta do is count backwards 50 days from there. But I thought they were there for another 3 days before he actually spoke and the law was given, so that might mess with their calculation a little bit. However, whether or not it's off by 3 days, it still puts first fruits in the ballpark of the 26th or the 20th day of the first month, so the week following unleavened bread. So it does still work kind of in that ballpark, if people believe that Pentecost was kind of occurring when they came to the mountain, or when Yah spoke from the mountain, or the law was given, or something like that. Okay. So, then I guess in that video was really a response to another video by Rob Skib where he's talking about first day of the week or first of the Sabbaths. Now this video focused on the New Testament and brought up some interesting points about the phrase first day of the week. A couple of years ago, I did notice that the word day was added. Every single time you see that phrase, first day of the week, the word day is in gray italics. That was a translator's way in the King James Bible of letting people know that they were adding words to kind of, help the translation, I guess, in their mind. But I also noticed that the word week in this phrase was actually Sabbath. So, so every time. So whenever you see this phrase, it's not saying the first day of the week. It was saying something about Sabbath, the first Sabbath or something. And so, I mean, on the topic of Sunday versus Sabbath discussion, that they like to use that phrase, first day of the week supports, having church on Sunday or whatever, but that really doesn't say anything about Sunday, actually. But anyway, lately, and in, I guess, Rob Skib's video, and then lately, I'm realizing there's more going on here. There's more than just the day being in gray italics and the word week being the Sabbath. There's something else with the rest of that phrase, and I think I'm going to have a picture or two of just some clips showing the strongest numbers, but you can see something is going on, like, and I think Rob pretty much just speculates that they're talking about the first Sabbath counting towards 7 Sabbaths leading to Feast of Weeks, which makes sense. But there's even more going on, and it's kind of above my head at this point. I'm hoping for feedback. But if you look at Matthew 28:1, it's interesting because you see the word Sabbath, like G 45:21. It's kind of used twice in that verse, and something isn't adding up. And it might have something to do with the understanding of what is a day, like the evening to evening or morning to morning. I don't know. I'm hoping someone can weigh in on this. Try to make sense of all these verses in the New Testament that use that phrase, first day of the week. I think there might be 8 of them. And like I said, they're not all the same. There's something different going on. You gotta just look at the phrase. There are different numbers. Like I said, it's a little over my head at this point, but I'm hoping someone will kind of pick up and look to see what's going on in this Greek original language. But anyway, the first of the Sabbaths is what Rob Skib, I guess, video was bringing out, and that makes sense. You know, first of the Sabbath, counting towards the Omar, towards Pentecost. So then, if that's true, and I mean, sometimes that might not be true. There might actually be something else going on in the text. I'm not sure. I hope someone looks into it. But it theoretically should be possible to figure out when the count began. So if they were using that phrase, first Sabbath counting towards Pentecost, theoretically, I mean, I think that the first mention of that was, you know, when right around the resurrection. So theoretically, that takes us back to the scenario of possibly first fruits, possibly being the counting of it started in that neck of the woods, which would place us, you know, because if Messiah died 3 days and 3 nights after Passover, it takes us back into the week of unleavened bread, kind of thing. So then I went back to the previous video I mentioned. Forget what the title of it was, the long one, Death, Burial, Resurrection. And I went back to that video and heard it out again, and again, whether they're off 3 days or 3 nights, whether they're off 3 days or not, that account places first fruits in the range of the 26th to 28th day of the first month, you know, the week following first bread, so unleavened bread. So again, this is based off the assumption that Pentecost occurred when Yah gave the instructions to his people. So we have a little bit of assumption on one side, and then on the other, in the New Testament accounts, we have something potentially funky going on with the original language, and I think both of these need to be looked into a little more. I haven't figured this out yet, but I am leaning more towards the 26th day. Please contribute your thoughts and comments, or send a private message. We'll try and piece this thing together. A few more random thoughts on the topic to ponder. Different points I've heard made. Why would we need, like, other instructions, or it just kind of seems like long-winded instructions to figure out first fruit and Pentecost, or if first fruits was on the 26th day of the first month, if it was always supposed to be on it, it didn't like vary or anything like that, why wouldn't the Creator have just said it if it was that straightforward? Like, if it was that simple, he said for Passover it's on the 14th day. You know, all the other appointed times, I'm pretty sure he says, you know, the 10th day, the 15th day, like he tells you what day. So if it is on the 26th day, why wouldn't he have just said it? So that's kind of like, Here's another logical thought I've heard. I've heard people say it does make sense that first fruits occurs during the week of unleavened bread, because everyone would still be around Jerusalem. So it's just like convenience or something. So that's, again, just another thought. Here's another one. Christ became the high priest and then offered the first fruits to his Father. So, you know, again, the week following unleavened bread, is something going on there? Like, you know, when he was resurrected, he told Mary not to touch him, and then later he invites Thomas to go ahead and touch him. So did something happen between these accounts? He have ascended to his Father multiple times. Somehow first fruits got fulfilled in that story. I mean, because we know Paul talks a lot about first fruits. I think he calls Christ the first fruits, but then he also calls us the first fruits, and I think there were people that rose with Christ that were called the first fruits, so it's kind of confusing to pinpoint what exactly is first fruits, or who fulfilled it, or... Anyway, another chain of thought I wanted to quickly mention, there are circles of understanding out there that theorize that we should be adding another 50 days to our count when we reach the 7th Sabbath. This comes from the way they read and understand or interpret Leviticus 23:15 through 16. So they say, well, I read it this way. And, well, I just want to say, just as easy as they can read it one way, it can also be read the other way. 50 days just simply being a recap of the 7 weeks that were just mentioned. Anyway, the big thing that eventually jumped out at me regarding this chain of thought was this understanding does not seem to match the cycle of the Shemitah and Jubilee years. On a bigger scale, you got the Shemitah years happening every 7 years, kind of like the weekly Sabbath, and then you got 49 of those, and on the 50th year is the year of Jubilee, so it doesn't match that cycle to be having 49 and then add. I think those are two patterns, kind of one on a smaller scale, one on a bigger scale. But a final train of thought. I wonder if people who hold this view have taken into account the fact that there are multiple first fruits throughout the year. I didn't realize this until recently, but growing my own home garden, this kind of makes sense as I see, certain fruits and vegetables becoming ready to harvest sooner or later than others. Leviticus 23 says the first of the first fruits. For first fruits. It specifically says the first of the first fruits, not the second batch of first fruits of the third batch. So, later by the time Pentecost rolls around, there's another harvest of first fruits ready to go, a different crop. So I've heard these people say it makes sense that the 49 days plus another 50 days puts us in the middle of the appointed times and splits the year into thirds, and with another harvest season happening right there. But this might just be because there are multiple first fruit harvests throughout the year, and both Pentecost and first fruits, and then possibly more first fruits following Pentecost leading up to the fall feast. But again, the bigger thing is the inconsistency with the Shemitah year and Jubilee year cycles. I want to mention one more thing. We must not be afraid to spread our wings and fly. Men have a tendency to try to fit Yah and his truth into a box, and then we build empires around these boxes and, start to defend these boxes and possibly start closing our ears and hiding our eyes from new truth because they're afraid of what it might do to their empire or their box. If a foundational pillar needs to be updated, then there's a chance the entire empire could fall apart, or in this case, certain understandings of the calendar because of people's thoughts regarding the timing of Passion Week or whatever. So I just want to encourage us all to walk humbly with our Creator. None of us, you, I, anyone, should ever claim to be too certain of something, lest we fall. That's 1 Corinthians 10:12, Paul's admonition, I think. But if new truth is discovered, that is world changing or empire changing, we need to look at it with fear and trembling and humility. Possibly start over, keep looking, keep seeking, keep asking. Truth will come. Embrace it with a humble, pure heart and love your brothers and sisters as we strive together to discover this truth. One more thing about Pentecost. It seems we're actually commanded to proclaim in that self-same day, Day of Holy Convocation. So I guess I just wanted to put this out there before tomorrow, because that's, I guess, my current understanding of when Pentecost is going to occur, but I could have something wrong. I'm just trying to, do my best to be faithful with what I currently understand, and I'm not completely satisfied or at peace with it. I do feel like the final bit of clarity is just right around the corner. Hopefully somebody has that other puzzle piece, but if more revelation comes either directly from Yah or through one of you out there, I'll post an update to this video. But in the meantime, let's proclaim and encourage one another until peace about this truth has been discovered, or until He comes to clarify everything. Finally. I do believe we're getting closer and closer to understanding all of our Creator's truths. And it's like a pregnant woman ready to give birth. Like, I'm thinking about that woman clothed with the Creator's timepieces mentioned in Revelation. I see surges of truth and growth occurring, and they're similar to contractions. Like, again, the woman in Revelation, it said she was ready to give birth. And, I'm guilty of it. I get busy with distractions for a while from time to time, but, it does seem like from time to time, near the appointed times, as draw near, this study and growth seems to intensify. Not just for myself, but it seems to be the pattern I've been seeing lately among those seeking truth in the end times. So, like, it's almost like this woman in Revelation. Like, seriously, I think that's pretty significant, and pretty cool. But I don't know. Yeshua said to watch. Lately, I've been hearing that a lot. As I've been listening to the New Testament again, he says watch quite a few times. I mean, like, it's the common thing, no one knows the day or the hour or whatever, but I think right around the time something like that was said, like, he's giving us parables about watching, like, watch through the second watch of the night, through the third watch of the night, pay attention, watch, So, as the appointed times come around, we should be looking up with expectation. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about constellations lately, telling us we need to be watching for something happening either in the summer or the fall of 2017. I would not discount this, even though I believe the woman in Revelation is talking more specifically about people and the attributes of this people rather than the stars. However, that being said, remember the wise men at Christ's birth. They saw something in the stars that told them the time and place of a big event, the birth of our Savior. So I haven't looked too deeply in what these people are claiming about the stars in 2017 yet, but it might not be a bad idea to test it. In any situation, 2017 or other future years, as I've said before, I think we need to have our hearts prepared at all times, but especially be looking up with anticipation when the Creator's appointed times roll around. And just be loving one another as we kind of bounce ideas off each other and learn how to help each other. Iron sharpens iron. Anyway, that's the update. Now, I would like to hear your thoughts, so please comment or send me a message. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of this. Shalom, and Yah bless.